I am Brother Cornell West.
This is Chris Hedges.
I'm Rosa Clemente.
Hey, what's up? This is Chuck D, Public Enemy, Prophets of Rage.
And this is Newsbeat.
Peace and love. It's your man, Manny Faces, producer and host of Newsbeat, the Newsbeat podcast, mixing social justice journalism with music and very often original lyrical contributions from brilliant hip hop artists. We are the melding of art and journalism. We like to say it's like if this Democracy Now! And Black Thought had a podcast, baby. You might have just tuned in for our weekly Friday, This Week in Social Justice. This is the bonus you didn't ask for. As you can see on the screen, Marcus Ferrell, former deputy manager, campaign manager to Stacey Abrams, and a lot more hats that he wears, is now joining us. There's been a flurry of activity in the state of Georgia today, so we certainly understand why he wasn't available for our 1 o'clock stream. But we said, hey, let's just go live and do it again. Joining me, as always, the managing editor of Newsbeat, Mr. Rashid Mian, the editor-in-chief of Christopher the editor-in-chief of Christopher. Do you edit yourself? Is that how this works?
That's how it goes.
The editor-in-chief of Newsbeat,
Sometimes.
Mr. Christopher Tawarski, and of course, as we mentioned, the inimitable Marcus Ferrell, former deputy campaign manager Stacey Abrams, is joining us. Rashid, who is our guest and why are we here? Why are we doing this crazy thing?
Okay, so all of a sudden, as we were signing off the live stream, our weekly Friday show, we got news that Georgia has been called for Joseph Biden, the president-elect.
Wait. You mean we got...
and it's some crazy, you know what?
We'll make sure.
So Georgia was called for Joe Biden, and this is big news, especially if you follow politics, because a Democrat hasn't taken that state since Bill Clinton did in 1992, and it's been 10 days since the official close of the election. So we're very happy to have Marcus on. Marcus, again, we appreciate it. Marcus knows a lot, obviously, about the state of Georgia. He's the former deputy campaign manager to Stacey Abrams, the former chief of staff to the new Georgia Project, which we've all heard a lot about in the last week and a half. And he also was the Black Outreach Director for Bernie Sanders' 2016 presidential campaign. So, Marcus, thanks again for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate being on. Sorry I came so late. It is kind of crazy down here right now.
So you know what? Let's start with that. Tell us about it. So Georgia has gone blue, like I said, for the first time since 1992. How did it happen? What's going on in that? What's going on in that state?
Game, set, match for for Joe Biden here in the state of Georgia. We have officially turned this state blue. And, first I would be remiss if I didn't just say that a lot of work happened, a lot of people behind the scenes, a lot of years of pressure fighting Republican opposition in structural ways. Literal systemic racism has kept eligible voters from voting in the state for years, and all the organizations that were involved in every time they would purge 250,000 people. These organizations down here would register 400,000 people, and it was a never-ending battle. And you got to understand that, these guys down here, Republicans down here, are not used to losing anything. It's a part of the sort of I'm not going to say white supremacists, but definitely white power structure in the state of Georgia that has been dominating Georgia politics for the last basically 30 years. And it's a good thing to see. So today is a day where, we already knew it. We knew it the day that it was finally counted, but we also know that white supremacy doesn't die easily. It sort of has to be evident and reformed and switched around and turned around in different ways, because these guys refuse to say no and they refuse to take a L. But the demographics in the state just has changed that. The effort, the work has changed that. Stacey Abrams running changed that. New Georgia Project and Nsé Ufot and Alex Birch and all those guys at New Georgia Project who've been knocking on doors. I'm gonna give New Georgia Project a specific shout out before I give a shout out to Fair Fight State and Fair Fighting folks, right? New Georgia Project, when nobody was watching, when Georgia was there's no way that Georgia can ever turn blue. We had organizers in every corner of the state talking to voters, speaking to voters, Look at that's my video right there. Talking to voters.
I got you, man. I got you.
yeah, that's the website. I'm no longer with them, but I still support them in every measure and means. Matter of fact, I have New Georgia Project talking points in front of me right now because they want to make sure that I'm fully capable of handling myself on air without having a babysitter. So, no. I mean, the work that has been done, you got to understand something. We've been fighting when MSNBC wouldn't even cover us, when CNN wouldn't cover us, when even more progressive outlets wouldn't cover the state of Georgia because historically it's just been so bad down here. So today's a good day. And then shout out to Stacey Abrams' campaign who galvanized this state into doing what it did. And I'm also happy to not necessarily announce, but I got a funny feeling that my friend Stacey is going to be running for governor again. So this is a good way to kick it off. This is a good way to kick. Now, this is not an official thing, but we got some unfinished business here in the state of Georgia. It's cute that Biden got elected. I'm a progressive. I'm a black progressive. So Biden getting elected is more so, but Stacey actually having the potential to run for governor excites me a lot more. And this is a good leeway into that. So congratulations, Georgia, NGP. Like I'm giving them rap shout outs right now. You know what I'm talking about? Georgia, New Georgia Project, NGP. You know what I mean? My people down in Thomasville, you know what I'm talking about?
Hey, listen, I got you. So we got you. You're in the right spot.
I'm talking about. So, it's the best part about, so first we know, there was a small bit of concern, right? And I'm pretty sure Lauren Grow-Argo, whose name never comes out, but she's probably one of the most important figures. She runs a Fair Fight, and she was also my campaign manager for Stacey Abrams, and she knows this state left and right. I mean, I'm sure that she's ecstatic, but all of us had a little concern when they decided they were going to do a recount because of the shenanigans that they can pull. I mean, listen, Georgia is a neighboring state to Florida, and I'm a Florida boy, but Florida's Florida man, you know what I mean? And we know what happened in 2000. There's ballots sitting in the St. Johns River right now from 2000 that has algae growing on them right now that actually got George Bush elected. So, we were worried about those things, but
well, I think it was AOC that recently said that Georgia's not a red state; it's a voter suppressed state, right?
That's right, and it's hard for the Republican Party nationally, definitely locally, but especially nationally, to look at this state as anything but. But I mean, guys, we had to do what the DNC didn't want us to do. Well, let me change that. Of course, they wanted us to do it, but not necessarily supported us throughout the years to do. Like, we had to take private money, we had to take small dollar donations, and hire black and brown organizers all over this state and scrap to fight against this voter suppression tactics. I'm talking about places in South Georgia where, there's never been a sheriff's race because they wouldn't even have a race, right? Like, so we couldn't, they literally wouldn't even, there's places in Georgia that have never had a recent sheriff's race because the supervisor elections for that county wouldn't call it because he was best friends with the sheriff, right? This is antebellum politics in the state of Georgia. So for seats of blue power, for seats of progressive power, like Albany, like Savannah, like Atlanta, like Macon, right? Places that you would never hear about, but should be on the national radar. Man, I'm gonna tell you something. Macon, Georgia saved America. The SWATs, where Outcast them from, where Goody Mob from, saved America. Like, these places that you heard all this beautiful music now, and beautiful hip hop and beautiful culture, right now it's Little John and everybody else from that point. Like, their neighbors saved America, right? So I live in Fulton County. I live in Old Fourth Ward. I live a block away from where Martin Luther King is laying right now next to Coretta Scott King, right? I'm in the hood, right? And like, lines were around the corner, man, and you can't suppress everybody. The sheer numbers. I mean, to be honest with you, if it was played fair, it wouldn't even have been the vote count right now. It would have been a 300,000 vote difference, but we still beat their ass.
Yeah, and Marcus, now there's a huge turnout in so-called swing states of black voters for Biden across the board.
Right.
But Georgia seemed to really crystallize, how powerful of a political force Black Americans are. So can you talk a little bit about, just this, like you said, this impressive this historic turnout, especially among young people, how that helped deliver the win?
Right. Well, so young voters ages 18 to 24 in the state of Georgia turned out at the highest rates that they've turned out in the history of black voters, right? Black voters who are ages 18 to 24 really turned out. So it also seems to, it also brings up another question. And I know this is not what you asked me, but it's something to think about. It also brings up a question of how progressive any administration is going to be when these young folks were the same ones who were so pissed off this summer, like having protests right down the street, right? If you think that the Black Lives Matter protest this summer didn't give Joe Biden a victory because everybody has common sense. Yeah, we know about Joe Biden's past, but as Dr. West said on my podcast, I would much rather vote for a neoliberal than a neo-fascist. And it's going to be a good question whether the policies that this administration has actually matches the 18 to 24-year-olds that normally don't turn out at the level that they turn out to actually put them over the top. What changed Georgia? I'm going to tell you what changed Georgia. First off, sick and tired of being sick and tired changed Georgia. Sick and tired of people ignoring us. As my dear brother Andre 3000 3 Stacks said, the South got something to say. And we've had something to say, but unfortunately, because of the amount of how I guess cute Iowa is to national figures, that when Stacey ran initially, there was no interest from major organizations in the primary to figure out that there's a black woman that's running for governor in Georgia until we turned that corner. I mean, there's a lot more than that, but I'm gonna tell you that was a pivotal point, man. That was a pivotal point is when Stacey turned the corner and got her name recognition out there. And when she lost by the same amount of voters that Kemp purged. Like she literally lost by the same amount of voters that Brian Kemp purged. Right. And knowing that if that's the case, then all we got to do is do more work. So people started paying attention and started funding organizations down here. I mean, Black Voters Matter has been doing their things down here. Shout out to Mondale Robinson with the Black Male Voter Project. Just so many organizations that were voter focused and voter engaged. That's what turned the corner. And also just black people saying we all we got. So even if they don't show up, we're going to do it ourselves.
Yeah, Marcus. And you talked about sort of the progressive messaging, coming out of it, that party. You already saw right after the election, this sort of, I guess it's just like this knee-jerk reaction by, moderate Democrats and even the mainstream media to start blaming, the left for their own failures, for the establishment's failures. So we have two key runoffs happening in Georgia until I think the election is January 5th, right? So, I mean, how, in terms of the messaging, what are the policies that these candidates need to talk about heading into the runoff? Because I think I've already saw from Ossoff, especially, he did an interview with Axios. And he was talking about DC statehood, Puerto Rico statehood. And I was thinking, how do those issues impact people in Georgia? Right.
Well, I tell you what, first, I am going to vote for Ossoff. And I personally am going to vote for Reverend Warnock, and here's another thing. Reverend Warnock was the chair of New Georgia Project for years, so he understands the sort of ethos, and I'm happy that he threw his hat in the ring. I said this on Twitter, but I'll say it again. There have been more white consultants to come down to Atlanta than there were PS5s. So what I'll say about that is, like, I'm all right. I'm gonna be honest, but I'm also gonna be optimistic. So here's a little doom and gloom, and here's also a little optimism, both wrapped up in one statement. Man, when the DNC gets involved, when the National Democratic establishment gets involved, I start getting scared because they want to treat everywhere like Iowa, and I've already seen. And you got to know black people and know that 2/3 of the state and the majority of Democratic voters, like black women alone, are 50% of the Democratic voters in the state of Georgia by themselves, right? Just black women, right? Black men are like 25 to 35%. right? And you need to turn them out, right? Now, here's the difference. There's no top of the ticket sexy campaign at the top anymore, right? There's isolated Ossoff and Warnock versus Republicans, right?
Yeah.
And typically in off elections, we don't necessarily do good. So that Axios interview didn't help. It just didn't help. I wish John Ossoff would just be quiet, right? Like don't say nothing. Like let us do this for you, so we can at least, because you going on saying I don't defund. Like if you're a politician, you don't have to say I don't believe in defunding the police. You can like work your way around that stuff. You're supposed to be the savvy guy, and he is a savvy guy, but the sheer like gall of this guy when he answered those questions in that interview was very disappointing. And it makes it hard because you got to understand something. Again, the folks that you need for turnout, the folks that are so excited about you, are the same folks who are on John Lewis Parkway and Boulevard protesting and shutting down traffic and screaming one word, defund the police. Now, you can believe in it or you don't have to believe in it. You can call it whatever name that you want to. And I understand the conundrum because Georgia is a typically sort of conservatively blue state, but you got to shut up to get all the numbers, right? So I think that two things are going to happen. I think that if white consultants get their hands on all the money and the decision-making process, we're going to lose. And that's typically what happens, right? But I also think that if they smarten up, and there are people, leaders in the state like Nsé and Stacey, who will stand in that gap. And me right now being on this show will stand in that gap and be like, no. You guys can stay in the Hilton. We'll send you to Strokers, or we'll send you to the strip club or something like that. Like y'all can go eat some wings, at the wherever y'all go ahead and get you some honey hot barbecue, right? But we don't need you trying to dictate where our canvassers go, and also the messaging behind the commercials that we run, because we need dynamic messaging. We don't need the same messaging that happened in Iowa and that happens in New Hampshire and happens in the Midwest, and the consultants that come and give these whack ass commercials coming down here and doing that, or they're going to mess it up for us. So let us lead.
Yeah, Marcus, I obviously an extraordinary story here, just in terms of the power of grassroots organizing, right?
Yeah.
If you could just talk a little bit about that too, just like as you mentioned at the beginning of the show here, just knocking on doors, just like hitting the pavement, shoe leather, just getting out there and trying to get the vote.
Yeah, I won't even go to GOTV, because what you have to understand is the capability to vote is more important than voting in Georgia, right? So I'm not going to talk about turnout. What I'm going to talk about is the protection measures that these organizations, the ACLU, New Georgia Project, have done to protect voters' rights to voting. So you have to. So I'm using the story. An example is Jeff Davis County down in the middle. Yeah, Jeff Davis County. How about that, right? Like they still have a county named Jeff. It's not Jefferson, it's Jeff Davis County. And what they
Davis
did was,
Light.
Right, Davis Light. And what they did, this was last year. What they did was they had 3 precincts, right? They had 3 precincts in their county, and what they managed to do was they decided that they were going to consolidate all the precincts, get rid of the black precincts, and basically take the white vote and basically make everybody in the white voting precinct go to the white voting precinct that's downtown. And so virtually, what do black people think when they go to City Hall? What do black people think in general when they go into official establishments? For the most part, you the police, right? So it was not only taking away their easy access to vote, it was forcing them to vote in a place that had sheriff cars all around it, right? And if that's not voter suppression, voter intimidation, then what do you have? So organizations like New Georgia Project and I believe ACLU was with us. We went down there and we shut it down, right? And they have never seen the onslaught of African American people who could represent their neighborhoods so well, because we brought their own neighborhoods to there, and we packed the courthouses, man. And they ended up leaving all of the voting precincts open. Little stories like that I think is more important than the turnout, because you got to have the capability to vote. Like, we're fighting on 2 fronts, registering people, 3 fronts, registering people to vote, protecting that vote, and then turning them out. right? We can, in this whole Georgia turns blue narrative, we cannot forget the most important part was actually keeping people having the capacity to vote. I could easily tell you about the amount of that Black Male Voter Project sent over 1 million text messages in the state of Georgia to black men trying to get them to turn out for the presidency. I could easily tell you about how the New Georgia Project Action Fund and Black Voters Matter went and galvanized during COVID, went and galvanized hundreds of thousands of voters to make sure that they practiced themselves, but they wouldn't even have the capacity to vote if we didn't do some damn hard work just protecting the right to vote.
Yeah, Marcus, that's amazing. And just the last thing from us, you mentioned Stacey Abrams and maybe potentially some unfinished business, heading into a couple of years. So can you just, how deep are those wounds? I mean, in Kemp, you had a guy running for governor who was the Secretary of State. At the same time, they were purging voters from the rolls. I mean, so is there a sense that I'm sure, for Stacey Abrams, it's a wound that's very raw still, that, she channeled that energy into organizing and what you're talking about, but just for people in Georgia, her supporters, just, how much has that left a bad taste in your mouth?
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm a black man from the streets, man. You punch me, bro. You better why? You only got one chance to do it. Hey, listen, you can only catch me slipping one time, bro. And that's the same thing with Stacey, right? Like, ain't nobody down here sad. Ain't no bad taste in our mouth. We know what happened. We won the election. Like, we won the election and y'all took it from us. So, okay, got it. Like, got it. Gotcha. So how many numbers was that? How many voters did y'all purge? Got it.
Right.
They're going to have to come out with some extreme measures to stop the fourth fastest growing metropolitan. That actually might be the second fastest growing metropolitan area in the country, outside of, ironically, Maricopa County, right? Mm-hmm. So like Gwinnett is the fourth fastest growing county in America. Fulton County is like the seventh, right? You're talking about, and it's not like a whole bunch of Karens moving here, man. It's black people, bro. And there's no reason to be angry, because when you're angry, you fight the wrong way, right? You get punched in the face. Mm-hmm. You got, like Bruce Lee, you got to be like Wata. Like, you have to actually have controlled punches, and you have to have, and basically what I'm saying is you have to have strategy. What happened in Georgia is not, woohoo, we lucked up. No, what happened in Georgia was, okay, they took away 4, we're going to double that by 8. Okay, they're going to take away 10, we're going to double that by 20. Okay, they're trying to purge everybody, we're going to try to register everybody, right? And the constant back and forth is going to happen. And if Joe Biden can win, let me tell y'all something, this is very important. If Joe Biden can win Georgia, Stacey Abrams is going to blow out Brian Kemp. I called it right here.
That's perfect, man. So we'll leave it right there. Yeah, Marcus, I appreciate you joining us on a day that Georgia goes blue. Obviously that's something everybody's been looking forward to for a while. So just for the listeners and the viewers, can you just tell them where they can hear and see you?
Yeah, so you can see me every morning from 8:30-ish to 8 o'clock-ish to 8:30-ish CPT time. And that's clickbaity political thirst trap time, because that's the name of the podcast. See? You like that? You like that, right?
Smart guy meme.
You can find me at clickbaity political thirst trap. That's C Thirst Trap on Twitter, clickbaity political thirst trap on Instagram, Twitch, and also on Facebook. And if you want to find me, it's Marcus for America on Twitter and Instagram, and Marcus Ferrell on Facebook. Oh yeah, and Old Man Politic on Twitch. I'm a gamer.
Okay. Get it in where you fit in, man.
That's right. I can't get my PS5 though. I'm mad about that.
Oh man.
We're all out of luck, man. It's gonna be rough. We need it for this winter, especially. Come on.
Yeah, that's right. If I can leave y'all with one more thing too.
Definitely.
The future is bright down here. And what I mean by that is the future is bright and it's progressive. There are a lot of young black voters in the South. And I want to say this, and I want to repeat it. As soon as we create the same infrastructure in Mississippi And in Georgia, you're going to start seeing the same exact things. Mississippi is the blackest state in the nation per capita. There's no reason for the DNC and the moderate Democrats who run the purse strings to not be spending the same kind of capital that they're about to spend in the next 2 months in Mississippi and actually turn that state blue forever. So we need to think about like just more than just Georgia, man. The South in general, and I ran the numbers, and the South in general can be won. And by just having structure and people have taken the chance and the willingness on Black people.
I'm no political expert. A good friend of mine, artist activist Genesis B, is out of Mississippi. She calls Mississippi the microcosm of America. And if you could flip Mississippi, there's no end to what could be flipped.
It can be. Mississippi can happen. Alabama can happen. South Carolina, Jamie proved it. South Carolina can happen. That wasn't a super huge deficit, right? That's a couple of weeks of voter registration and turnout, right? So it can happen all across the board. We just need to trust and believe in the people of color that are trying to change this country, man.
All right, that's what's up. Marcus, thank you for your time, man, and congratulations for all the work you and your colleagues down in Georgia. I'll be down there in about 14 days. I got family in Canton and Marietta. I'll be down there in your neck of the woods, man. So
hey man, just hit me up, man. Turn up.
What's up? No doubt. Good to have you on the show. Thank you for finding the time to rock with us, man.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, we're good.
All right. Yeah, I think that was good. We got some breaking news in.
Marcus, thank you so much, man. Yeah. Well, Georgia, I mean, we all figured it was, about to happen, and sure enough. So
yeah, I think everybody was just waiting for the recount, right? Because still
gonna do the recount. It looks like the recount has started, according to our corporate media overlords. But what's the recount gonna do? Flip a couple hundred?
Yeah. Look, I'm glad we got a person like Marcus on the show because he's on the ground, right? He's saying, you heard what he said. He said, "Also, stay out of the way. Let us do the work."
Which is to your point. Like you brought up a good point. Like don't mess it up now. It's the Joe Biden in the basement strategy. Like if the other side is messing up, just because you got the two current senators trying to attack the sanctity of the election by going after the Republican Secretary of State. Like, let them mess this thing up. You just hold on. Just do the work. Just do the work. Let the people who have been doing the work for years now take care of business, it seems like. Well, listen, we came back on. We did the second edition of Friday This Week in Social Justice. I hope if you're tuning in and checking us out, you realize what we're about. Go back and check out the full episode to find out what Newsbeat, the entire podcast situation, is about. We're not just bringing you this stuff online, but we hope that you found your new Friday afternoon home to learn about. Not learn about. You might know these things, but a fresh take on social justice and politics from your good friends at Newsbeat. Once again, for the Newsbeat podcast crew, thanks to Maury Creative Studios, our parent family. Shouts to you, Rashed, managing editor, Christopher Tawarski, not only the editor-in-chief of himself, but the editor-in-chief of Newsbeat. At some point, this will be on the podcast feed. So if you're listening on the podcast feed and you're like, wow, this is great, where'd this come from? It's Fridays, it's live, it's 1 p.m. Eastern, either on our Facebook or our YouTube. You can go to usnewsbeat.com/Facebook or usnewsbeat.com/YouTube and be taken right to where we're at. So please do that. Rate us, review us, share us with all your friends. Reminder too, if you go to the things, we'll have the little things up where you could set a reminder and remind yourself. But really, just right now, ask Siri and be like, Siri, 1 o'clock Friday, I know where I'm going to be. This Week in Social Justice with me, Manny Faces, Rashed Mian, Christopher Tawarski, the Newsbeat crew, extended for overtime. Yep, it was unexpected, but it went. Thank you to Marcus Ferrell, and
it's incredible how it worked out too, right? Because if he was able to come on the show, the news didn't break until right after the show. So it's, in a way, this was meant to be. It's incredible.
Everything happens for a reason. Luckily, we have close connections to the good Lord who makes these things possible. So that's it. We're out of here. Here's the countdown to the exit. We'll catch you next Friday, 1 p.m. live and direct. It's This Week in Social Justice, presented to you by the Newsbeat Podcast, baby.
I am Brother Cornell West.
This is Chris Hedges.
I'm Rosa Clemente.
Hey, what's up? This is Chuck D, Public Enemy Prophets of Rage.
And this is News